to episode 12 of the Music Crypt, and this week we're going to do something a little different, Dan. We haven't really done before. Usually it's like music or kind of maybe movie related. This week we're going to kind of talk about comedy, and we're going to talk about our favorite comedians, our favorite comedy movies, comedy TV theme shows. And reason I want to do this, a couple reasons. Number one, comedy I think is always, laughter I think really is the best medicine for almost anything. I mean, a lot of times, like, you get off work, you go home, at least I do anyways, and first thing I do is turn on the TV, and I don't necessarily want to tune into the bad news of the day. I want to be entertained. I want to have a good laugh after a hard day's work, you know what I mean? And I turn on my favorite classic TV shows, and sometimes these are shows I've seen over and over and over, but just because I know it's a guaranteed laugh, I never get tired of watching them,
Right, absolutely.
So why don't we get started, and I guess you can start with your list of favorite comedians.
So, I'm going to start at the bottom of my list and work my way up.
Yeah.
And it's probably, it could be moved around.
Yeah.
But, I'd say, I was kind of, checking these out, checking a bunch of comedians out and stuff like that. Some that I remembered, some that I didn't, And number 10 on my list, the very bottom on my list, is Bill Cosby.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
He was, he kind of had like this generic comedy, that pretty much anybody could like.
Yeah.
Don't look at what he did later.
Oh no, but here's
ice Coca-Colas and stuff like that. But his comedy was pretty good.
Now here's the thing with Bill Cosby. Like a lot of people, you talk about Bill Cosby today, and they obviously think of something else. But even back in the 80s and 70s when I was growing up, Bill Cosby was like a comedy king, and a lot of people don't realize like he got his start on TV. On TV, like on that old I Spy TV show, which was much more of a. I know they had like some kind of comedy lines in there, but it was much more of a TV drama. And then he later became known more for his comedic, acting and his comedic timing, and he did a lot of stand-up comedy, in the clubs back in the day. But a lot of people also know Bill Cosby from the 70s with that Fat Albert show, which is an interesting thing because, he was kind of the host of the show. He was the creator. I believe he created, all the characters. He came up with all the... So super talented guy, not just... his comedic timing, being able to host a show like that, but he was the creator of that.
Yeah, so that was very cool. I enjoyed watching his stuff when I was younger, and I was watching some of his. He did that one. I think it was called. I can't remember the name of this show. I think it was called maybe Himself, something like that.
Okay.
But it was just really, really good stuff. It was on HBO for a long time back in like the 80s.
And besides, Fat Albert, we gotta give Bill Cosby credit too. Very innovative guy. You talk to people later in the 80s, and what he's remembered for, of course, is the Cosby Show. Fat Albert was like a generation before, and that's often a very hard thing to do when you're thinking of a way to kind of recreate yourself. First of all, next to Good Times, which was the first kind of all-black family comedy show in the 70s, there wasn't probably another prominent black family, if you know what I mean, themed TV show until the Cosby Show. And again, Good Times is kind of opposite of the Cosby Show in the sense that Good Times is kind of a struggle of, your typical black family in the ghetto and what they go through and struggle through it. Whereas, Bill Cosby's character,
he was like the doctor.
He was a doctor and the wife was a lawyer, and it was really a family-themed show. So it was really a different type of show for that time in the 80s. There had never really been anything like that before. And, before we go any further, I got to also say, with Bill Cosby, what he's gone through the last few years, it's kind of a shame because for being the great comedic actor that he is, a lot of people kind of wanted to have nothing to do with him. He's out of jail, and that's great and everything, I guess, depending on where you fall on that. But, like when he first went down and, he got convicted of all this and he started serving time, I remember there were these TV programmers who, they'd been showing the Cosby Show in reruns for years and years because it was a great money maker for their station. But then because of, and if you think about it, not just the TV show, but all the other actors that played on that show, all of a sudden, they're Like even I think on Amazon they were no longer going to show any more episodes of the Cosby Show, and you know, just think about that for a minute.
Yeah, they kind of just erase him.
Yeah.
Like he never existed.
And that's really a shame, because if you go back and you forget about, you know, Bill Cosby, you know, what he's accused of doing, you can't really, if you're fair, can't really deny what he did in the past. You know, if you go back and look at any of that stuff, it's just as genius today as it was when he first came out with it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, who else is on my list? The next guy up is Stephen Wright. Remember him?
No, I don't. Who's Stephen Wright?
Stephen Wright, he is this, I don't even know how to describe this dude. He's kind of baldish, kind of got like this bozo haircut.
I'll have to look him up. Wow, okay.
And he has like no like real expression, he's just kind of like monotone.
Okay.
And he just kind of goes out there and he'll say stuff like, you know, if, like one of the things I heard the other day when I was watching some of the things, just one of them that I remember.
Yeah.
He goes, if a tree falls in the forest,
okay,
and there's nobody there, does it make a noise?
Now I'm taking Stephen Wright's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Okay, and now, you know, also the other thing, going back to Bill Cosby for a minute, you know, but I kind of wanted to note is it's kind of interesting because Bill Cosby again. I don't know if you remember when he started getting all the controversy about the stuff with allegedly like drugging all the women and stuff and forcing himself on them. It was actually some other kind of comedian at the time. He was also in the stand-up clubs doing his comedy thing. He wasn't as well known, and it's almost like that's what this guy later kind of became known as, the guy that kind of outed Bill Cosby.
He was like the only one who made money off of Bill Cosby going to jail.
I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, I guess it's a little. In the guy's defense, like, okay, maybe at least, okay, he's really kind of was irked about what Bill Cosby he allegedly got away with. But what do you think of another guy kind of outing another guy like that as part of his routine, and it kind of going viral?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that he did that, but it's just, I don't know. It's just a kid. I don't know.
Yeah,
and then funny though.
And then
it was kind of funny that he picked on him really seriously hard, and I've seen him show up at some of those like celebrity roasts. Yeah. You know? And the first thing they say is they give him crap about how he made money off of Bill Cosby.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So you know, it goes one of two ways. Like on one hand, I mean, the guy he becomes known for kind of outing Bill Cosby, and then you have a certain percentage of people that love that and think, oh, well, you know, you've finally taken this guy down, or just because of what you said during your comedy show, and then you have another half of people, oh, you know, how dare you? You know, you're an African American comedian and you're trying to take another guy out. How dare you? I mean,
I just think it's an act.
Yeah.
It's just a kid that gets his act. You know, that's what he does.
So let's get on with your list, Dan.
Let's see, who else is on here? I got, let's see, I can't seem to read my
writing.
Okay. Writing. That can't be really a good thing. Dave Chappelle.
Oh yeah, he's an obvious choice. I mean, he's
just obviously too funny to not.
I mean, he's definitely got his own thing going.
Further up, you know, but the one that I love the most, is the one where he talks about the black KKK member.
Oh yeah. And you know, Dave Chappelle.
Where the guy's blind. What the hell is that guy's name?
I don't know. I can't. But Dave Chappelle.
That's a dang funny. That's a dang funny skit.
Dave Chappelle. He's an originator. He's got his own thing going. He's not trying to copy off of any. And that's why you got networks like Netflix. You know, wanting to do stuff with him, and he kind of. And what I respect about Dave Chappelle, not only is he a funny guy, but he's not one of these woke guys either. Like if there's some controversy going on, you know, in the news, he'll make it part of his act, and he's not one of these woke guys. You know, sometimes he gets you know, people kind of narc on him for kind of not being more woke, and he's like, no, this is what I believe. This is what I'm going to discuss. I'm real, and you know, I dig that. I mean, some people call him kind of the black Jerry Seinfeld, but I mean, he's reached that level, you know.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, he's a little more or less politically correct.
Yeah.
A little more offensive, which I think is kind of needed almost today.
I mean, it's funny because even Bill Maher, who's a known liberal and stuff, he like is even calling some of these liberal people out that are really way too woke, and he's like, oh, just wait a minute, okay? No. And he actually calls people out. So I give him credit for that, you know.
Yeah. Next on my list is Eddie Murphy.
Oh, no doubt. Now, the thing with Eddie Murphy, I mean...
You have to go back to Eddie Murphy when he did that, that HBO, it was like his first stand-up comedy thing, you know, where he's in his little red leather outfit.
Oh, yeah. I'm Raw. I mean, that was...
Yeah, that is real Eddie Murphy.
That was when Eddie Murphy was going, like, really kind of mainstream in the sense that he was all over. I mean, of course, we know he got his start on Saturday Night Live now. That's the original Eddie, and what I mean is, if you go, that's where he made any of these movies or anything. If you go back and you watch the different skits, I mean, that's where he did that buckwheat kind of imitation, and he had it down, you know. And what's funny is, if he was to come out with that now, with all this wokeness going on, you know, he'd get kicked off, he'd get banned, and
it's like that movie. What was that movie? Had Ben Stiller in it.
Oh, Zoolander.
Huh?
Was it Zoolander?
No, the one where they're in the jungle.
Oh, I know what you mean. I can't. The name's escaped.
But Downey did his black face paint.
Oh yeah. But you know,
I'm sure that wouldn't go over too well.
And talk about Saturday Night Live. See, again, when Saturday Night Live was first coming on the scene back then, I mean, they had all the original cast. Like, I mean, the ones that would go on to be stars: Eddie Murphy, obviously, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase. You know, you could go down the line, but I do not like what Saturday Night Live has become. It is way too woke, and what I mean is, okay, I can laugh at the best Donald Trump joke as a wrestler, but you know, the joke gets tired after a while when that's all the joke becomes.
It's the same joke all the time.
Like when Joe Biden became president, they wouldn't dare tell a joke about him, or they couldn't dare say anything about Hillary. You know, if you're gonna turn into a political show, be willing to kind of joke on everybody, not just because even Stephen Colbert, you know, he's known for a comedian known late at night for you know, kind of trashing Donald Trump all the time. And again, okay, Donald Trump's no longer a president. The joke is getting old, and so now his thing is to just have like Democratic liberals on his show. Okay, and again, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. But the thing is, it's only slanted one way. Just like when I watch the Oscars and the Academy Award shows, I don't want to be preached to. And a lot of those shows I don't even tune into anymore. Like Stephen Colbert, it was exciting to see who's going to replace David Letterman, but I don't even tune in that show because it's not even entertaining. You kind of know, and that's the sad thing about those late night shows now that have become woke. They're not even funny, and I don't know how you can even call that comedy, you know, because I'm not laughing about it.
Yeah. I think the next one on my list is kind of a team.
Okay, let's hear that.
You can't really take them apart because apart they just sucked.
Yeah.
That was Abbott and Costello.
Oh, so see, you're going back to the classics here, and that's so true.
The only reason I'm saying that is the other day I'm flicking through the channels, and they were doing this like marathon of Abbott and Costello meets, and so they had like Meets Frankenstein.
Oh wow!
Meets Dracula.
I got that on DVD. Great film.
Those were just some of the coolest freaking movies, you know, because you know, as a kid when I saw them, right, I was into the monster movies.
Oh yeah.
But then Abbott and Costello was kind of funny at the same time. There's just some really cool stuff going on.
Oh, my dad, he loves Abbott Costello. That was his favorite since he was a kid, and it's great. Even though I wasn't around back then, you go back and you watch those classic films, and that's the thing about comedy. That's the thing about humor. You didn't have to even be alive when those films were made. You can watch them today, and you'll still have a natural laugh. You know, where sometimes you watch a movie or TV show, and the laugh is kind of manufactured. You know, so much to the point they even have to put a laugh track in, so you know, kind of when to laugh. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
they were just classic. I mean,
and like you said, you know, when they tried to go off on their own, they weren't as good as they are together. And, I mean, it's almost.
You know, it's like during this little life, during this little series that I was watching, you could see where when they first started, they were freaking just clicking off of each other.
Oh yeah.
And towards the end, they were just kind of getting sick and tired of each other.
Yeah, it's kind of.
And it's like they didn't really make that many movies together.
No, and it's kind of like Seinfeld, great ensemble cast. Now, and Seinfeld's a perfect thing to kind of talk about because, Jerry Seinfeld's a star, but the reason that show worked is he had all this cast of characters, and they were real friends. They got along, and that's why that show works. They clicked off of each other. But as we've seen, as some of them tried to go on and have their own show, it just didn't work because they were not the same. The only one that was kind of able to do that was when they created the show Frasier, and he was originally a character on Cheers. He was able to kind of go, because I guess they had great writers or whatever. But that's also an important aspect of the comedy is who's writing it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Let's see who else I got on my thing. I got let's see, Steve Martin's next.
Oh, he's an obvious choice. Now, the thing with Steve Martin, again, like Eddie Murphy, I think he got his start too on Saturday Night Live, and these guys would go on and like make all kinds of great movies, like Steve Martin, for example. First one comes to mind is probably The Jerk, and it's exactly kind of what you think. This guy just kind of is being himself, doesn't really care, doesn't really give a damn, just, you know, a real major ass, but doesn't really care what anybody thinks. He's just himself. But that's what made the movie funny. Father of a Bride, probably one of his funnier movies. You know, this guy that's just going crazy because his only daughter is getting married, and he you know, he gets in all these situations just up to the wedding, and the wedding comes, and, you know, of course it finally happens, and everything comes together, and it ends very happily, you know.
Yeah, what you got to do really is go back before Saturday Night Live and listen to his live comedy albums.
Oh yeah.
And that is some of the greatest stuff. I mean, he was, I think the second album that I got when I was younger, he had just come out with King's Tut.
Now, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. There's I've seen this old video clip, probably you can go on YouTube and see it, of him like playing a guitar or a banjo or something.
He plays a banjo. He's an excellent banjo player.
Singing.
He's got a little arrow through his head playing the banjo.
And see, what makes that cool, because when you think of Steve Martin, you think of him more as a comedian, not necessarily a singer, a songwriter, a guy that can play the banjo, and that's just like another side to what he does. And the other thing I got to mention about Steve Martin is kind of funny, because like even when he was young and, you know, on Saturday Night Live, and he was just coming out with all these great movies, he's a guy that's always he always looked like he was old. He had white hair, you know, when he was 30, and I can't think of a time when I ever seen him not looking like that. And now he must look drastically different, because it's been years since he's made a movie. And I think these days, I think he's pretty much retired. Maybe makes a movie every once in a while, but I can't think of the last thing he did. And he's more into writing plays and books and stuff, and that's what he's doing, you know, these days.
Yeah. Let's see who else is on here. Oh, of course, Robin Williams.
Oh yeah, he's on my list.
Another freaking comedy, freaking genius.
Now let me ask you, when did I'm assuming, like me and a lot of people, you first became aware of Robin Williams, I'm assuming, on Happy Days.
I saw him on a stand-up thing.
Oh, okay.
Which was probably about the same time.
Yeah.
That Happy Days was coming out, and you know, I think he probably hit, you know, like, I don't know how to. He was hitting like stand-up and TV almost the same time.
Oh yeah.
Because he was just he was freaking.
In fact, I think
that's for sure.
I think somebody that worked for Gary Marshall, which is a producer of you know, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, The Odd Couple, and then he'd gone to work with him, of course, in Mork and Mindy. I think somebody worked for him, seen him doing his stand-up routine, and they got the idea, hey, look, we're going to do an episode, you know, based around this guy, and he'll be an alien or something. And on the surface, it kind of sounds like a goofy idea, but they were able to make it work because of Robin Williams and his comedic timing. I mean, they said, you know, we went in and we were, I seen a special where he talked about this, and they said we went in, we were going to write a script for that show, but he just started going off, and we let him do his thing. And they said initially, which a lot of people, when you first see that episode, you're like, man, this guy, he is crazy. He seems like somebody is really he's high on something. And you know, funny thing is, he literally was back then. I mean, I heard him since talk about, oh yeah, when I was doing that, you know, I was high as a kite on cocaine, and I guess he was, for most of his life, pretty much, he was a severe alcoholic. But for years, he was able to keep that part of his life hidden. And it's amazing, because I'm sure you know, Dan, you've heard probably like me, a lot of times comedians are sometimes some of the saddest people in their personal life for whatever reason, but yet they have the ability to make others laugh. And that's the genius of some of these people like Robin Williams, because, I mean, how surprised were you? probably like me and many other people, when the news broke that, not only did Robin Williams die, but he took his own life, and in such a painful way, hanging himself from a ceiling fan or something with a bed.
As far as I was concerned, he was still at like the top of his game.
Oh yeah, I mean,
he wasn't being like put in these crappy movies, where he just sucked or anything like that. He was still doing what he wanted to do, and he kept his really what he wanted to do. Obviously,
he kept his depression, whatever he's depressed about, for well hidden. I mean, nobody until that point in life, nobody had any clue that this guy was depressed about anything. I mean, sometimes they're able to keep it, but like you're saying, from Happy Days to Mork and Mindy, I mean, he just off that one episode of Happy Days, I mean, they had such a reaction that they had to create a show based around this guy, and you think, okay, they were able to do with one episode of Happy Days, but to turn that into a series, and they were able and make it believable. An alien comes down, but again, I like the way it's not just an alien comes down from Earth in a spaceship. He comes down in an egg, and the egg hatches.
Yeah, it was a cool show.
And then I think before we move on, we should also mention, like you said, some of his great movies. I mean,
did you ever see RV?
RV, that was like one of the most funniest things he ever did. I mean,
that was one of the dang funniest movies I think I've seen in a long time.
See, to me, it's kind of a take on like those vacation movies with Chevy Chase, but it's taken it to the extreme. I mean, Chevy Chase got pretty extreme in those movies, but you go see that film and you think of it. Yeah, you don't think of it as ripping off a Chevy Chase film, or you're like, no, that is totally Robin Williams. He made it his own. But very much like when a band goes and covers somebody else's song. Like I was talking to somebody the other day about Foghat, and they covered this song, "I Just Want to Make Love to You." Big disco hit for the band back in the 70s. But anyways, it was originally, come to find out, it's originally done by this blues artist, Willie Dixon. He's the one that wrote the song and originally did. If you listen to the original Willie Dixon version, it really is a blues tune. It sounds nothing like what Foghat did. But Foghat changed that song so much and made it their own that anybody that hears that song, they think that's a Foghat tune. Yeah. So who's next up on your list?
It's like Pretty Woman.
Oh yeah, Pretty Woman. Yeah. Yeah. Van Halen. Yeah, Van Halen also is good at doing that because, like, I was telling somebody too. You look at what they did with "You Really Got Me." I mean, I know most people from my generation. You think of "You Really Got Me," you don't think the Kinks. You think of it as a Van Halen song.
Right. If I want to do an episode on covers.
Yeah. That's a great. That's a great idea that just popped into your head. So that's great. Sometimes that happens as we're doing these. Discussions. And the other thing we should probably bring up, you brought up Pretty Woman, that made me think about the movie Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts. Now, that's kind of, I don't know that's more of like a love drama. I don't know if you call it a comedy movie, but at the same time, you take a guy like Richard Gere, you pair him with somebody like Julia Roberts, who was a hot babe at the time, and it's funny because you don't think of Richard Gere as a comedian, but the way that movie, if you listen to some of the movies, lines that they say in the movies, it's made to get a laugh. And even though that's what's kind of unique about movies too, when you watch them, you don't think of Richard Gere as a comedian, but he's got the ability to make you laugh based on how he says the line or based on how he's reacting to what is being said.
See, who's next? I had Lenny Bruce next.
Okay, now I know who Lenny Bruce is.
But as I was thinking.
Yeah.
The two I have above him, I totally forgot one that I needed to put on there. So
okay.
I'm gonna actually scratch Lenny off my list.
Okay.
And I'm going to replace him with Sam Kittison.
Yeah, that's one I definitely agree because Sam Kittison, what was unique about him, he's a rock and roll kind of Steve Martin, if you will, in the sense that Sam Kinnison's a great comedian, no doubt. But a lot of people like myself, you also think he's kind of a rock and roll comedian. I mean, probably one of the first ones.
He was like that. He was like rock and roll
because
in your face, and
here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing with that. while Sam is no doubt a great stand-up comedian, I mean, he came up with stuff like he wrote most of the stuff from what I know. He came up, I think his brother helped write some of the stuff, but he's a guy delivering it, and he could just come up with stuff, on the fly. And the thing is, about calling him a rock and roll comedian, but hard rock, metal, whatever you want to call it, is because probably like myself, I don't know about you, Dan, but how I got introduced, like a lot of people, to Sam Kittison was his cover of Wild Thing. And, I don't even recall who did the original version, but it was a Sam Kittison version that kind of rocked my world. And from that point on, every CD he came out, every comedy special I would watch, because Sam Kittison, he was a comedian of my generation, even to this day. And again, it's sad when you realize that the way Sam died. I mean, I think he just coming home from his honeymoon, been married a week. He'd been sober for like a year, and then tragically, way back, I believe, from his honeymoon, he gets killed by a drunk driver, if you will. I mean, just talk about the irony. Yeah.
You want to see some great freaking Sam Kittison before he got popular.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Go back and watch Rodney Dangerfield's comedy special, the very first one. It'll be on HBO.
Oh yeah, and
and they have some of the very best freaking first appearances of some of the greatest comics ever.
Yeah, and it's funny, we mentioned Sam, we mentioned Robin Williams, we mentioned you mentioned Rodney Dangerfield. Now, those guys all knew each other. They were all friends from, of course, the comedy scene. They and they did stuff together. I know, like Rodney Dangerfield, I believe, was even in the Wild Thing video. And if you look at the cast of characters in that Wild Thing,
Well, that's because Rodney Dangerfield gave Sam Kittison his start.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. See,
that was like his start was on his TV special.
Oh wow, that's something people got to go back and see.
Yeah, you got to check it out, because nobody had ever even had a clue what this guy was going to be doing.
Oh wow.
And so he just blew everybody away. It was an amazing.
Yeah, you look at the cast of characters in that Wild Thing video. I mean, okay, most of the guys from Rat, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, every big name band. I mean, Richie Sambora, Robin Crosby, the guitar player from Rat, is no longer among the living. Jessica Hahn. I mean, she was kind of in there for kind of a comedy factor. Which the scandal she went through. But I mean, he gave Jessica Hahn, for example, validity and a whole, known for something totally different from the scandal she was known for. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Let's see. Number 2 on my list. Number 2 and number 1 are so closely tied.
Okay.
It was just the way they wrote them down.
Yeah.
So next is Richard Pryor.
Oh, Richard Pryor. Yeah, he's again, like Bill Cosby. I mean, he's got to be included on that list if you're thinking about famous black comedians, because I mean, he was a hero to many black people coming up, not just because he was not just a comedian, but he went on to do movies and dramas and stuff, and he was quite successful. I mean, as you know, he got started doing the stand-up thing, but like even they paired him with, you remember, like Gene Wilder in movies like Stir Crazy, and
they did some crazy cool movies together. That is for sure.
And it's like the two of those guys together, kind of the white guy oddball, the black oddball.
I mean, you would have never thought those two together.
I mean, there was one movie, I think it was probably my favorite movie they did together was See No Evil, Hear No Evil, or one of them was blind and one of them was deaf.
Yeah,
and they just
that was funny.
They got into all these crazy situations that you could just imagine,
Yeah, it was a funny movie.
Yeah.
And so he was just a funny dude, and then even after he like burned himself up, he was making jokes about himself, and he was a hell of a funny guy. And then number 1 on my list, George Carlin.
Oh well, yeah, another one, kind of the original stand-up for many people. I mean, and he worked all the way till he died a few years ago. I don't think he ever had any downtime, and he's known more for like his stand-up routine. I mean, people I know would see him like on HBO. He'd do all those great comedy specials, but that's probably where most people know him from.
Yeah, and that's pretty much. You know, I had some other ones that I was thinking about along the way. I'm just like, no, I mean, they're good. You know?
Yeah, see, I didn't really...
but I didn't really think they were good enough to be on my list.
Yeah, I didn't really come up with a list like you this week. I did something different because I want to kind of have more of a general conversation about comedy and like my favorite comedian. So I will talk a little bit. Now, I want to get your opinion on, we talked about Sam Kittison, who to me is like the original rock and roll, if you will, type of comedian. Probably the guy that follows that would probably come next in that category would be Andrew Dice Clay. Were you ever a fan of him?
He was so funny. He was also on that same comedy special I was telling you about.
Oh, okay. Well, I gotta go back and...
So you had Sam Kittison, you had Andrew Dice Clay. There was, Bob Saget was on there.
Wow. Yeah, and see, Bob Saget's interesting because he gets thought of as, you know, straight and clean like Danny Tanner from Full House, but...
yeah, he was not clean at all.
No, and that's the thing is like, I know a lot of people...
They probably didn't watch this stand-up before they cast him on that TV show.
Yeah, and then people know him too from, of course, Funniest Home Videos. But see, the thing is, if you think of him as just Danny Tanner, no, that's really not his image. That's, you know, in fact, I know I've heard for years like that he didn't really like that Danny Tanner image, and after that show came out there, he went back to doing stand-up, and people were really surprised when because I guess not a lot of people at that time had seen his stand-up. Oh wow, is that the same guy that's on TV? But you got to remember, when you're on TV, you kind of gotta censor yourself somewhat, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, getting back to Andrew Dice Clay, see, he was a lot like Sam Kittison. Like I said, Sam Kittison kind of came before, but the difference is, I think his routine was really, they would have to censor because back in the day it was really filled with F this and F that and, you know, hickory dickory dock, and he tried to he had this kind of Elvis look, like, you know. Now the thing about him, I don't know, but I think he's still doing stand-up, but I was reading recently that he recently came out that he's suffering from Parkinson's disease, so I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to get up there and do his thing, but, you know, he was definitely a contender back in his day.
Right, yeah, definitely.
And, you know, talking...
He was very funny.
Yeah, and like some of the guys we kind of glossed over, like when talking about, you know, Steve Martin, and, you know, those, and Eddie Murphy even from Saturday Night Live, like Chevy Chase back in his day, he's one of my all-time favorite.
Oh, he was a freaking classic too.
I mean, I don't know what happened. I'll tell you what's sad is like he really let himself go. I don't know if he's sick or what, but like if you go back and watch those classic vacation films, I mean, my two favorite, I gotta say, is the original one, which is kind of, he goes on this crazy road trip with his wife and his two crazy kids. He got a son and a daughter, and they get all kind of hijinks because, you know, because dad is just a real goofball, but he's one of those guys very much like a Danny Tanner, but he's a goofball, but you love him at heart. You can't help but love him, you know, because he just gets in all these, and sometimes he gets himself so, you know, so frustrated that, you know, just a perfect example is that, so I love the first vacation film, and I love the Christmas Vacation, because again, how many times have you had like a Christmas or a holiday gathering, and just all kinds of crazy, you know, people come, and you know, just, I mean, like, he had a thing in the Christmas episode where, in the Christmas movie, trying to get the Christmas lights to work. How many times have you had troubles with that? And he goes crazy, and somebody brings their cat and sets the Christmas tree on fire. Just all crazy things that you can't imagine. And I remember seeing it to refer every holiday now they play it on TV. It's become a classic, a standard every holiday. But I remember seeing it for the very first time in the theater. And man, I took my grandmother, and we were both, you know, we were both on the floor laughing. And see, that's to me a test of a great comedy flick. I mean, you know, nonstop laughter, and you're not forcing it. It doesn't have to be forced. I mean, those are the days like when the laugh track wasn't even in the movie, you know. And what
it
makes,
still holds up. You can watch it today, and it's still as funny as it was when you first saw it.
And what makes a great film is too, when, you know, not just the star but the whole cast is funny, you know, together. And what I was saying about Chevy Chase is, they did like a reboot of the original film. They called it Vacation, and him and the one that played his wife in all these films, they were in it. And I hadn't seen Chevy Chase in years. And I mean, of course, we all age, but, you know, he was. I mean, Chevy Chase was a pretty good looking guy. You know, for most. He's now like, he was super fat. He had white hair. He didn't even look like the same guy.
Right.
And
yeah, like kind of like when he was. What was he in? That I saw him in where he was like. He didn't.
There's a hot tub time machine or something like that.
Yeah.
And see that.
Yeah, where he was the maintenance guy. Yeah, you're like, wow, he's just really gone away.
And see that's the point I was trying to make. Not that he really got fat or anything, but he did kind of let himself go. And the thing is, but at the same time, I do the fact that he's still there, he's still doing it. In recent years, though, he hasn't done as much, and it's come out that he's supposedly, like I seen this thing on YouTube, supposedly he's not the greatest guy to work with. He doesn't get along with it. I guess kind of got an ego. And if that's the case, it's kind of sad. But we have all this great stuff that he did before, but I really think is worth checking out.
You know how his character was, like in Caddyshack?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's another great...
That's kind of how I pictured him being all the time.
And see, Caddyshack, that's one of those pictures, too, because not only you got Chevy Chase, but you got, like, Ted Knight from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and all of these, Rodney Dangerfield, they were all in that film. And that was one of those films, one of the last great kind of, we had that all-star cast. And they tried to redo it with Caddyshack, too, but I tell you, the original film's still the best. And I was going to mention Dan Aykroyd because, like, think of a movie like Spies Like Us. You know, again, Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase, they got their start together on Saturday Night Live. They did several films together, and that's another one. Like Chevy Chase is great on his own, but when those two guys would team up, they would bounce jokes off of each other.
You know, what was the movie? It was kind of around the same time Caddyshack was, but it seemed like they were in like a summer camp and they were trying to like hide an alien or something. I
can't remember. But
do you remember the movie I'm talking about?
No, I really can't. But the other one that comes to mind too, speaking of Dan Aykroyd, because you mentioned Eddie Murphy, they'd also of course done. But those two guys did 48 Hours together, and see, that was a time when all those cats were doing movies together. And then the thing is, I think when you start doing then the problem becomes like anything, a money situation. Like, okay, who gets more money, Chevy Chase or Dan Aykroyd? Should they get equal amount of money? And there's all these little feuds over stuff like that.
Yeah. So let's since we're talking comedy and movies and stuff, let's compare two movies together that I thought were the first one I thought was maybe funnier than the second one.
Yeah.
The remake, but like the original Bad News Bears.
Oh yeah.
And then the one that they remade, with what's his name?
David. What was his name?
What was the guy who was the coach? Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh yeah. Okay, Billy Bob. Yeah, it just wasn't the same. I mean.
And I don't know. I mean, I thought the first one was way better.
Yeah, with Walter Matthau.
The second one had its points,
Oh, Bad News Bears. That made me think of Walter Matthau. Now, of course, I got
another great guy who was just really funny.
And him and Jack Lemmon together. I tell you, my favorite. I think my favorite movies of those two guys were those grumpy old men. I mean.
Yeah, Odd Couple.
I mean, yeah. That's where they originally teamed up together. Was the original Odd Couple movie, and again, that's a little before my time, but I really think people like maybe associate producer Gary Marshall with Odd Couple because he was the producer and the writer on the TV show, kind of brought it to life. It was this guy Neil Simon, famous playwright, and so it's kind of funny that the guys that did the TV show, they were basing their characters on obviously Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. And that's also, I think, kind of like you said, their take when they did the Grumpy Old Men movies, kind of taken. And then you had, of course, Anne Margaret. You had these two old guys fighting over these women, and some of it was just comical. I mean, they're playing these like old men pranking one another. I mean, I remember one scene where like Jack Lemmon is naked, taking a dump on the toilet, and somehow Walter Matthau is able to videotape it, and when they're in the video store, he puts it on all the TVs for everybody to see, and embarrasses the hell out of his best buddy. They start fighting over a fishing pole. Just crazy stuff. But those are, to these days, classic movies. Those are movies I can see. I think I like the original one the best, but I can watch any of those Grumpy Old Men movies and laugh my head off. And
another one I was just thinking about too, which is always really funny, is the title just went right by my head. Oh, never mind.
Well, one that comes to my mind is Meet the Parents, of course, with Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro. Now again, Robert De Niro kind of, I'm sad to say, I watched that movie, and I still love that movie, but to see what that man has become, I mean, he's another totally woke guy, and I mean, he gets on TV, and of course, has to trash Donald Trump every chance he gets, and lets his political views, entertain me, talk about your movies, I don't want to hear that stuff, but,
yeah. Exactly.
But if you want to remember Robert De Niro from back, not just, see, he's an interesting character as an actor, because that's kind of my reference point for Robert De Niro. I mean, as far as if you ask me, okay, what's your favorite? I would say those, especially the first two Meet the Parents movies. Just comedy again, because Ben Stiller's character, plays this goofball Greg, and they're meeting him for the first time because their daughter's going to marry this goofball, and he goes meeting them for, sets the house on fire, loses a cat, just all kinds of crazy, the septic tank, the shit gets all over the place because he does what he's told not to, and then he lies about it. Gets in all of these crazy situations just for the fact that he can't tell the truth, and whenever he gets nervous, he lies. And then it's a typical father, father meets his daughter's boyfriend and just can't stand him, and but it's a classic. And then also Robert De Niro, I seen on Netflix another classic film he did, Taxi Driver. It's not really much of a comedy, but that's what I'm talking about. So this is a guy who was able in his acting career to do great dramas, and he's a great, he did great comedy movies.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, I'd like to talk about TV too, because like we mentioned Seinfeld. I always loved the film that it was just simple comedy. It was kind of a dumb show based on, and you asked Jerry, like, what's Seinfeld? It's supposed to be on about nothing,
It's about nothing.
this goofy guy and his friends. But see, I loved all the friends. Like I love that show work because I love George Costanza just as much as I love Seinfeld, just as much as I love Kramer. And then they got this crazy girl that tags along with them, Elaine, and they get all these crazy situations. And even after her and Jerry are no longer together, they're still like the best of friends, and she still tags along. And they're, you see these different people kind of come into their lives, but they're still at the end of the day. And the only thing I'll say, I didn't like the very last episode where they all go to jail, but even after, I think the point of that episode was to show these are people that they just don't give a F about anybody. It's all about them. And the only thing I'm going to end this part on is, of course, Michael Richards, the guy who played Kramer. I mean, his popularity went down because, again, about people being woke. I mean, he shouldn't have done this, but somehow he got caught on a live mic, saying the N-word, and ever since then, you don't really don't.
It's like putting a mold to your head.
Yeah, you really don't hear,
you don't hear much from him anymore.
Yeah, and Jerry Seinfeld, he used to have this series on Netflix. I haven't seen any new episodes in a while, like Coffee and Cars, where he would go meet with some of his other famous friends, and they get in a car and take one of like Jerry's famous cars from his collection. They talk about the car, and they go get coffee and like kind of just chat about each of their careers. So it's kind of it's a comedian kind of doing it something different. I dig that,
Yeah. What do you think when they like cross genres? Kind of like when the Ghostbusters cross streams. It's like you got like comedy and horror, like when they did like a Scary Movie and stuff like that.
Well, I like the first Scary Movie. I kind of dug it because it was different. But then when you have like you turn it into a franchise, I mean, each one I guess stands out on its own. But you know what I mean? It's not as authentic as the very first one. And I mean the idea kind of like for the very first, I dug it. Like okay, even Courtney Cox. See, at that point, a lot of people known her as Michael J. Fox's girlfriend on Family Ties, but like even when they did that Scream, that's kind of where she was starting to become more broader known than that even predates Friends. Yeah. So and then I got other couple guys I want to kind of pay tribute to mention here is one of my all-time favorite comedians is John Ritter from Three's Company, and it's kind of interesting that's kind of, even as many great movies as he did, that's the role he's remembered for, because like me, a lot of people, that's what very first place we ever saw him. And I mean, I just used to be rolling on the ground. That was my favorite TV show back in the 70s. I tune in every Tuesday. I mean, it was just such a relatable character, such a likable guy. He didn't really do anything. And here's the interesting thing. I seen when they had a 40th anniversary of Three's Company, some of the cast got together. He was already passed away, but like the guy that played his neighbor, Larry, his best friend on the show, apparently they were best friends in real life, and John Ritter got him on the show. And I heard the actor's name is Richard Klein, and he was saying that him and John Ritter were such good friends and had such a great time filming the show. He says, since his death, he says, I can't even watch the old episodes because it brings back such, sadness about him being gone. I mean, just think as an actor, that's got to be pretty crazy. You can't even watch shows you made, because somebody's passed on that you were that close to.
Yeah, for sure.
And again,
he was another one. He was just super funny. He had great delivery, perfect timing.
And people, I loved his delivery, like you say. Some of it was just so simple, you couldn't help but laugh at. But a lot of his comedy, too, from what I understand, was just the physical stuff. The way he throws body and stuff around.
Kind of like back in the old days, like Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
He was a kind of a physical comedy kind of guy.
Oh, yeah, now, I almost forgot about...
Stuff with like Dean Martin, when him and Dean Martin would do movies together and stuff like that.
I almost forgot about Jerry Lewis till you brought him, but he of course was a comedian from back in the day, but later in life, he became more known for doing that muscular disc telethon. I mean, where he wasn't doing as many movies, but probably one of the standout movies that he did. Go back and check out the original version that he did of A Nutty Professor, which, as you mentioned, Eddie Murphy. I got to ask you, so did you ever see the original version of that movie, and what did you think of Eddie Murphy version?
It's been so long since I've seen either one.
Yeah.
But I think the first one I saw was the Eddie Murphy version.
Yeah, me too. And then I went back and watched...
And then when I saw the Jerry Lewis version, I'm like, wow, they did a really good job on it.
Yeah, I don't know who made it, but I seen another version. What somebody did it was a DVD thing, went right to DVD, like a cartoon, an animated version of it with like Jerry Lewis animated. But see, that's one of those things that I think partly because, like you said, that's the version I saw first with Eddie Murphy. That's kind of my reference point. And then I went back and I seen the original because I heard about it. And partly because of that, I think it doesn't even matter. Like sometimes you think, okay, well, hey, Jerry Lewis is, a white guy. How could they cast a black guy? But it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Especially if Eddie Murphy is your reference point. I mean, you could get any guy that's got comedic timing. And Eddie Murphy did really, if you compare the two movies, they are different in some ways. But Eddie Murphy did a great job of making that part his own.
Yeah. And who else was awesome, too, in all his movies, too, was Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, yeah. And Leslie Nielsen, he was one of these guys kind of... I don't know how to describe it. It's almost kind of like a farce, or like if you look at Naked Gun, and a Half, whatever it was, those Naked Gun movies, but kind of funny in a different kind of. It really is a spoof, But he owns it. It's his own. That's that's. Leslie Nielsen passed away years ago, but
those were funny movies too.
Yeah. I mean, they're timeless. And then another one is like Airplane from back in the day. I really haven't seen a movie like that since. But look at it's just one of those things like just everything that could possibly go wrong on an airplane. I mean, and then again when you stop and think about what it must have taken to make that movie, make it look like it was.
Yeah, they did an awesome job on that too. They were just I think all their airplane movies were just funny.
And again, you take like another classic TV show of mine that I love is we're talking about Happy Days. Now, like when you think of Henry Winkler, I don't know if you really think of him as a comedian, but his comedic timing on that show, especially as Arthur Fonzarelli, the Fonz. I mean, that guy he didn't have to work too hard. I mean, I remember like when they first tried to kind of change Fonzie's image. He starts wearing a leather jacket. I mean, all the guy has to say, he comes in a scene, and all he has to say really is, "Hey," and people, you just start, yeah. Or, he had his own language, like, "Hey, sit on it, culo mundo." Yeah.
Definitely a cool show.
I mean, no, even probably one of the originals, Lucille Ball. You go back and watch that stuff. And I understand, like, we're talking about John Ritter. He was really influenced by her. He got a lot of his ideas for his physical comedy by watching that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember an episode of Lucy where she went to Milton Berle's vault.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was like all these top secret things. He had like a moat with sharks going up there and stuff like that.
Talking about Milton Berle, I know he even had like his own TV show back in the day. But you may you're probably aware of this like me. Another place I remember seeing Milton Berle for the first time, being the age that I am, is in that rap video for Round and Round. And the reason he's a guy dressed up like a woman in the video, and it's supposed to be a comedic factor. And the reason they got Milton Berle in the video is the guy that was the band's manager at the time, he was a nephew of Milton Berle. So they said, why don't we see if we can get him to appear in the video? But again, another guy that's really not known for, appearing in rock music videos. I mean, that's the first and only one he ever did. But, that would become one of the things people would remember that guy from,
Yeah. Another guy that was cool too, and I think he may have been the only time he was really funny on the show back in the day was I think the actor's name was Max Baer.
I don't know. I have to look him up.
And that would be Jethro from Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh yeah. You're right. Now,
I think he was the only one who was really seriously funny that was in the family.
Yeah.
Everybody else was just like doing their stuff, but he had like punchlines and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
He was funny too, I guess.
Another guy I loved was Carol Connor from All in the Family. The way
All in the Family, yeah, that whole cast was great.
all the way, especially him and the way the Rob Reiner's character,
The way they would interact with each other, it was too funny.
Yeah, and see Archie, like, as you're watching it, like, and when you're watching the show back in the day, you're not even aware of any of his stuff till years later, but like, it's so like, he's one of these guys, he believes in what he believes, and nobody's gonna change his mind. But part of that, you gotta love it. He's who he is, and he's not gonna change for anybody. And you're watching the episode, and it's like, oh, this guy just does not get it. But that's what made the show so funny.
Right. And now it's like, there's no way that would be. I don't even think it's on TV and reruns anywhere.
Yeah, sometimes like I see it sometimes like here in LA, they have this like MeTV. Every once in a while, they play it late at night.
Race to network.
Yeah, but see that's funny because.
What they do is come up with a network of erased TV shows.
Oh yeah, I mean, we were talking about the Cosby Show, and they pretty much did it. Or that's another one we should mention. Roseanne. I'm not a huge Roseanne fan, but I liked the TV show, and what I liked about it is not only was it funny, but it was like pretty true. Like they tried to. It was compared to All in the Family too, because it was compared to like the show. It was like warts and all, kind of like Married with Children. But the thing that kind of makes me sad about Roseanne is as great of a comedian as she was and everything. Just a couple of years ago, I mean, they were bringing the show back, and she whatever she said about somebody who used to work for Barack Obama, it went viral, and they started calling her a racist, and so she gets fired from the show. The show is they change it to the Connors. Her character is killed off, so they can never bring her back. I mean, it's sad when things like, and it's so much to the point that, okay, not only does you think, okay, maybe she can go do something else. No, nobody's willing to work with her. Yeah, and
it's freaking crazy.
And then, how about, I think worthy of mention is the Three Stooges. That's going back, quite a ways, but before either of us were born. But it really stands up, and it's kind of funny when you consider that three of the original Stooges were brothers. Larry Fine was like their best friend, and they all had very kind of sad life stories. But again, maybe that's part of what made them such great comedians. Their ability to make other people laugh or take what they suffered through. And
it was like the Marx Brothers.
Yeah, like Curly.
They were really funny too.
Yeah, Curly died tragically young because he was such a severe alcoholic. But but you go back and you watch those classic films, still classic today. Yeah, just great stuff. So that's all I got for this episode. Unless there's anything else you want to discuss, Dan.
No, the only other show that I have to toss in there, because anytime I can push this show onto somebody, nobody called Holliston.
Oh, I never heard about it. Wow.
Yeah, so what it is if you go on, the streaming service called Shudder.
No, but I'll look it up. Okay.
So Shudder is like a horror-only type thing.
Okay.
But I think you can find the very first episode of it on YouTube, right? It's called Holliston. And it's got, it's a comedy, it's like a sitcom.
Yeah.
With like, how do I describe it? These two guys are working in a TV studio. They produce commercials.
Oh, wow.
Like the really crappy commercials that you see at midnight.
Oh, yeah, how crazy is that?
And then they do a horror movie, like Elvira.
Okay.
They play a movie and then they sit there and they talk about it.
Oh.
Their boss, who is the head of the station, is Dee Snider.
Oh, wow. I've never... Okay, wow.
And one of the guys is Adam Green. That's Seth Green's brother.
Okay, yeah.
He has a pretend friend that lives in the closet.
Uh-huh.
And this is before he died, but Otis from Guar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is pretend friend that lives in the closet.
Oh, Dan, you're definitely the guy to talk this stuff with, and I guess the last...
Tony Todd, he shows up.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much anybody who's in horror.
Wow.
It shows up along this first series.
Yeah.
And they do a second series, and they were going to do a third one, but I haven't heard anything else. It's been a while.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's definitely super funny.
Wow, we'll have to check that out now. I guess before finally wrapping up, the other one I should mention, probably that I used to just get a ton of laughs, Laverne and Shirley. I mean, what else can you say? Two crazy chicks getting in all kinds of trouble together, and like a lot of people, I think I prefer the original episodes where they're like in Milwaukee, because eventually when they moved to California, it's still good. I watched it all the way through the entire series, but once it got to the point where Cindy Williams leaves the show, and it's just, and they still, I never understood why they continued to call it Laverne and Shirley. They should have called it something else. But then also during the that show's primetime season, they also added these characters, Lenny and Squiggy, which those two guys I understand originally created, and they originally did a stand-up routine together as those characters. And somebody from the show went to Gary Marsh and said, "Oh, we got these two guys we've seen that you got to get on the show." And they actually created a part for those two guys, and they were like
the highlight of the show sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen an old clip of them on YouTube, like where they played this Lenny and Squiggy, like they're called Lenny and the Squigtones. They had a band, and it even predates like Spinal Tap, and they played an episode, I think, of American Bandstand. So if you can find that on YouTube, it's pretty worth checking out.
Nice. And like you said, you just mentioned Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Another freaking
genius.
Comedy great right there. You got this one that has to be watched.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and Rob Reiner, he's also involved with that. He was a producer and writer, but and actually the guy that played Lenny from Laverne and Shirley, he's one of the band members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
you got go back a little bit, and you got like Young Frankenstein.
Oh yeah. Mel Brooks, he's another class guy. And what about what was I gonna say? What about the Addams Family? Were you much, or the Munsters? Were you much a fan of either of those?
I liked both of them actually. At least the TV shows.
Yeah.
I didn't really like so much when they tried to bring them back.
No, like in the '90s they tried to.
Like their original TV series, those were just some really classic stuff.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever gonna beat that. Like I think they've been able to kind of do an all right adaptations of the Addams Family, but Munsters not so successful. I remember when they tried to bring that up the '90s and they colorized it, just wasn't the same. I mean, how you gonna?
The movies were good.
Yeah.
Right. I like the Addams movies, and those were good.
Now I got a DVD that I'm looking at as we speak. It's for a movie, Munster Go Home. That's of course a Munsters movie, but it's a great classic. I usually watch this every Halloween. That's a favorite of mine. Well, Dan, been enjoyed doing this today. Next time we're gonna be talking about our favorite drummers. Kind of create a list of that and pick some songs. Kind of showcase those drummers. So we'll be doing that, and this will be premiering the next couple of weeks. I'll let you know when it goes up. Dan, thanks for doing this today.
Episode number 12. That's a freaking year right there, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we really launched this like if memory serves, like towards last November. Yeah, so we have almost been doing it for a year. Some people say unlucky number 13 is going to be next, so we got to make it that much more special.
Just bypass the number.
Oh, there you go. There you go. In fact, I hear some people do that on elevators, on the elevators in the building.
That'll be episode 13 around Halloween. Will be perfect.
Okay, take care, buddy.